And thank you for being with us for Uprooted tonight. It's a wonderful film. I hope you're enjoying it at home. And if you are, now is the time. We're just taking a moment to remind you how important your support is to keep a station like Mountain Lake PBS on the air. We are thrilled to have our partner Veganitarian here with us, as well as scouts from the AGBU who are ready to take your call. So now is the time to make a quick phone call, show your support for this kind of storytelling at Mountain Lake PBS.
Yeah, it's really very interesting because that scene ended in a city, Diyarbakir, which was the birthplace of my grandmother and actually my father as well.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes. So it's very moving.
Very close to home for you.
Absolutely. And I would like to say that the relationship with Mountain Lake PBS goes much, much beyond this cooperation which we had. The Armenian community in Montreal has struggled for many years to get on the curriculum of teaching in Quebec the issue of the Armenian genocide, the history, and the stories of the survivals. For the first time ever, and thanks to the effort of this station, I participated as a delegate in an important conference at Vanier College.
Right.
And I was part of a panel discussion. The proceedings of that conference are now teaching material in the high schools of Quebec, and it was broadcast live in all English-speaking schools and in the SUNY. It was in the colleges and CEGEPs of Quebec. So this was a huge, huge success thanks to the effort of Mountain Lake PBS, not just PBS, this specific PBS station. Ուրեմն սիրելի հայրենագիտներ, այսքան հույժ կարևոր հարցի համար, որուն մեր այս գայարանը մեզի օգտակար եղած է։ Իրենց պատճառով մենք գրցանք Քեբեկի ուսուցման դասընթացներու մեջ տնել հայ ցեղասպանության պատմությունը։ Ուրեմն գխնդրեմ անհաբաղ հերացայնեցեք, անդամակրվեցեք Mountain Lake PBS-ի 1-800-836-5700, and thanks a lot for your support.
Well, we feel really lucky to be a part of that partnership, and as well with Vanier College. So it's mutually beneficial, I think, for both for the Armenian community and for us here at the station. When you make your call of support, you can take advantage of the DVD of Uprooted, which is a $75 pledge, or you can also take advantage of the $150 level. It's a generous donation, and we would be so grateful, and we'd be happy to say thank you by sending you the DVDs of Armenia in Exile, Uprooted, and My Son is will be Armenian, excuse me. So please take advantage of those DVDs, make your call of support, or you can visit us online at mountainlake.org and show that you value local storytelling, stories that you wouldn't find anywhere else. It's so important that we hear from you, and we've got volunteers ready to take your call, so let's keep them busy.
Make those phones rings.
That's right, thank you. So right now we are joined by Tom Halleck with Hagup, our director.
We are happy to be back with Hagup. We were chatting a little bit during that last break. PBS stations, Mountain Lake PBS station, Mountain Lake PBS, and many PBS stations across the country have reached millions of viewers with documentaries about the history, culture, and heritage of the Armenian people. As Vegan was mentioning a little bit earlier, and we touched on briefly, for the first time, a major studio has released a film now that focuses on the genocide. It is in theaters beginning this weekend. The Promise, it is called, by director Terry George. You haven't had a chance to see it yet, but do you think that much exposure is going to be good, that it's going to help reach an even greater audience?
Well, the conversation has started and can't be stopped at this point. Every major newspaper in North America is talking about this feature film. Millions are reading about it. Inevitably, it's opening up a new conversation. Even if they haven't gone to see the film, the impact, the marketing strategy has caused such positive effort that people are becoming interested not only about the genocide, but who are these people, these Armenians? So already, even without seeing the movie, I can say comfortably that Kirk Kerkorian achieved his mission. He wanted recognition of the Armenian people and of the Armenian genocide. It has been done without even looking at the film because of the number of newspapers, the number of TV shows, the online, the Facebook, LinkedIn, they're all talking about it.
And he's the owner of MGM Studios.
He was.
Former owner.
Former owner twice.
That much exposure nationwide is the hope that then maybe other people will turn and look for other movies, other documentaries, and that perhaps they'll discover the work you've been doing for
Well, that is
20 plus
a hope.
years now.
That is a hope, and I believe also that for the process of the recognition of the Armenian genocide, I think that the general public has to develop an empathy towards the Armenian people to understand who these people are, and I think that that has been part of my greater cause, is to communicate to the world who we are, and through musical, I've done 4 music films, 3 identity movies, 1 on apricots. I mean, the whole point is to communicate to the world who I am, who we are. And if they understand us through these documentaries, then they also connect that. This is these people went through something. Oh, we didn't know about that. So it's all linked.
And you mentioned you did documentaries that focused on the music and the culture, and we'll talk about that in a second. The film right now that we're watching tonight, Uprooted, you mentioned is part of your trilogy.
Armenian trilogy, yes. Part 1 being Armenian Exile, my personal quest. Part 2 has been a very important film, has gotten incredible reviews and distribution, is about the Armenian genocide. My Son Shall Be Armenian. It's a feature-length documentary produced by the National Film Board of Canada, which I directed. And this is part 3. And I had done a promise to myself that I wanted to do an Armenian trilogy. But I don't think the trilogy is enough. I think we got to go further.
And we'll talk about that in a little while. You also focused a lot on Armenia's musical culture. We had the honor of showing those documentaries here a few years ago. Armenian minstrels looked at the revival of an ancient musical art form and the training of a new generation of minstrels. For those that aren't familiar, what is minstrel art?
Armenian minstrels have been it's music of love, and well, the founder, I suppose you can say, is Sayat Nova. And these are the following generations of musicians, troubadours, musicians and singers. There's really not much about dancing. It's mostly about singing and mostly about love. So this film is about a particular group that has brought back to life the Ashur minstrel music of Armenia. And it's very important to notice that throughout the film, whenever I mention the word minstrel, minstrel is capitalized. The reason it's capitalized because it's a title. And the way those people were able to attain their title, a master minstrel has to give you a slap across the face for you to achieve that level. Excuse me.
And you mentioned there's been a revival, and
Yes,
that's very important.
Well, there's a cultural revival in Armenia, and that cultural revival is affecting us in the diaspora, where we are becoming more and more interested in our own culture.
And we see again and again in this most recent film that you've done, those who believe so strongly that the identity of your nation and your culture is through music and song and art and poetry.
That's right. And it is actually Mr. Arthur Shahnazarian who quotes Komidas. But Komidas was not only talking about Armenians, he was talking about all cultures. The purest form of a cultural expression is through its music. And it's unquestionable. It crosses thousands of years of evolution to be sung today and presented today. It's beautiful. And it is our very roots, music, songs, and we're a musical culture. We don't have a choice about that.
Hagop, thank you very much. Bill, let's send it over to you.
Thanks, Tom. We're just going to take a quick break from this fascinating interview with Hagop to talk to you a little bit more about Mountain Lake PBS and our need for your support. You know, public broadcasting, the critical word there is public, and we don't exist without the support of you, our viewing public, of the members of our community. We want to inspire, enrich, and engage our communities with this kind of important storytelling that really has an impact not only here locally, but indeed globally, as we are able to share these important stories. You know, our friends from the Armenian General Benevolent Union Scouts are here to take your calls, to take your pledges of support, and also here to talk to you, because that's really what we're about. We're about engaging with you, the public. We do want to thank two members out there who pledged their support because of this kind of work, because of Haggup's beautiful film, Uprooted. That's Lucy Sumbulian and Lisa Watanabe. Thank you so much for calling. Please make your call now at 800-836-5700, 800-836-5700, or visit us online at mountainlake.org. Find out more about how we get involved in our communities. You know, Vikan talked about our partnership with the Armenian community and Vanier College in really making sure that we're able to be a help in not only the entertainment area, but in the educational area. None of that work is possible without your support. So please pick up that phone and call right now. Tom?
Thank you, Bill. Back with Haggup now. How many trips have you made to Armenia to make films? Have you lost count?
Yes, I have.
And what is it that keeps drawing you back?
I think that it's ultimately the people. The people, I connect with the people. I love the people. The people are interesting. The stories they have are interesting. And there's a passion of, you see, it's different to be Armenian in Armenia. And I want to feel that than to be Armenian in the diaspora, because it's a greater struggle to be an Armenian or any cultural minority in the diaspora. Over there, they don't have to fight to be themselves. They are.
And they are the focus of your documentaries. It would be so easy to show us beautiful Armenia. Armenia is breathtaking. There are so many parts of the country that are Mount Ararat in the background, and you could just show us what a wonderful, beautiful country it is. But it really, you do focus on the people that live there and their stories.
And also, I try to not skirt over the issue of the struggles that they have. Some of them have difficulties in watering their land. I just don't say Armenia is just perfectly beautiful and there are no problems. But the fact is there are problems and there are beautiful aspects to it. So there is both parts that are coexisting simultaneously.
And you mentioned how you're drawn back time and time again. Are you looking to go back again? Do you have more projects that you look at and you say, I would love to tell more stories?
I'm not going to reveal all my secrets, but nevertheless, yes, I'm going back. I have several projects, and one is with a major American organization that we're working to develop this project that I'm working on. And I'm also still interested in working on subjects relating to the Armenian genocide that we have not as yet touched.
Is it that a lot of people really don't know the facts of the genocide? Even Armenians who have heard about it but really don't know a lot of the history behind it?
I think that we know a glimpse of the history, but we don't know the depth of it, the average person I'm talking about. I think that it is good to learn and explore more in depth, because I think that the history that for example, the first 200 individuals that were arrested on April 24th had a very interesting process that happened until their death. So I think that is worthy of exploration for every individual to do.
And you mentioned earlier, this wasn't something that happened on the 24th and was over. This was the beginning.
This was the beginning, yes.
Of a long, many years to play out.
Yes, it began, but it also began earlier, but it peaked with that event and just went on for several years.
And you had an interesting quote that I read. You talked about how you've said that you would like your projects and maybe some of your future films to seek the clarity where history left off. And I thought that was a pretty interesting line.
It's a struggle. It's an ongoing struggle, and I think that that's a challenge that I'm facing on a daily basis to see how, if I can see it clearly, and it's through ongoing efforts, ongoing interviews, ongoing exposures that I'll realize it.
All right, great.
Thank
We
you.
will be back with you in just a few moments, but right now let's go back over to Jen and Viken. Jen?
Thank you, Tom. We're happy to hear some phones ringing behind us. So again, right now is the time where you can make a quick phone call or you can pledge your support for Mountain Lake PBS online at mountainlake.org. Now, this kind of film makes me think a lot about tradition, and over the course of our 18 years working together, we've sort of developed our own tradition, Viken, and it's a delicious smelling tradition right now.
Yes, it is. Let's not forget, last Sunday was Holy Easter. So the Armenians celebrate Holy Easter together with the rest of the Christian world. So it is very interesting because on one of the occasions I was invited to the home of a friend, and she offered us specialized Easter cookies. And I didn't realize that those specific Easter cookies, anybody still knew how to make them. So that's why I brought some of them here with me just for you to see. And this is again about memory and tradition. And this specific Easter cookies which we're going to be looking at are these ones. And they come from the region of Gesaria. Almost all the Armenians who lived in Gesaria, which is now part of Turkey, have been completely wiped out. They do not exist anymore. We're talking about 102 years ago. Except that the tradition of baking specific cookies from that region, which continues to this day through a variety of generational transmission of information. Yes, we can see that. And these are the specific Easter cookies that are made in Gesaria, and they are made in Montreal by the parents of some of our scouts here, specifically Susanna Taman, and I would like to thank her for all her diligence in preparing this very specific thematic Easter table for us. By its side, we see the traditional Armenian sweetbread, which is called cherek. But really, the star of the show is this, because this is a very, very rare recipe passed on through generations. I did not realize that there were still people today who could make them, and this is absolutely great. So this is again about family, about food. In the past, we have shown so many opportunities to showcase other Armenian foods, but afterwards we're all going to have feast on these, and thank you, Suzanne, very much for that. But again, please support, make the phones ring right now. Հեռացանեցեք անհաբաղ Mountain Lake PBS 1800 836 5700. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, make that call of support. Go online and show that you value this type of local program. It is Mountain Lake PBS is only possible with your support. And when you make that call, know that you're not just simply making a purchase of a DVD. It's not buying a 3 DVD set of Uprooted, Armenian Exile, and My Son Shall Be Armenian. This is a way for you to show that you value this kind of programming, whether you appreciate just this or whether you watch PBS NewsHour every day, or maybe your children grew up watching Sesame Street. That's the kind of thing that we need to hear from you right now to show that that's the kind of programming that you want to hear more of. Right now, let's hear a little more from Tom and Hagup.
All right, thanks, Jen. We are back with Hagup. We were talking about historians, researchers, journalists, documentary producers like yourself. Still to this day are trying to track down actual documentation on the genocide and things like the orders to carry it out. That work still goes on today, 100 years later.
Yes. Basically, I don't know all the details, but one of the things that we were missing, so to speak, was the smoking, what is it called?
Smoking gun.
Smoking gun. And only 2 days ago, the New York Times wrote about it, that now we have the smoking gun. It is unquestionable, undeniable. The facts are there, written in black and white. We have it.
A researcher from Clark College, I believe.
Taner Akçam, who's been doing the research for...
In Worcester, Massachusetts.
Yes. He has been able to uncover in somewhere... Mind you, I suggest that you all read it in the New York Times and to get all the details, because I myself haven't. I read it on the iPhone, and it was
just
really
within the past couple of days. Yeah, I think
I
archives in Jerusalem somewhere that
That's
he's
right.
been that he
Exactly.
was searching. So, as a documentary producer, that must be exciting for you to
It
hear
is.
that.
It is very exciting. It opens up a new door of saying that this is. We have the proof. We had the proof. Now we have the smoking gun.
For so long, though, many of the denials have been based on that there wasn't documentation like this. There wasn't the smoking gun. And I know that many have said you can't keep with the denials, but that's been used as an excuse, I know, for decades now.
I think basically the denials are encouraged by other countries. For as long as we encourage the denials, the denial will continue. I don't think anyone has ever attempted to say that we have to stop it. We have said it, on a grassroots level, but as a major powers have not taken a step forward and say we have to stop the denialism.
As you talk about doing more with the genocide and perhaps another documentary, you're an independent filmmaker, and that's a big difference from like the studio film that has been released this
100
weekend.
million.
Exactly. And for you, part of the challenge is being able to make these works, to continue to do the work, to find the financing that you need to do it.
One thing I can say, it is through the efforts made by stations like Mountain Lake PBS that license our films, that give us a bit of funding, and that show our films to the public, Armenian films, on Mountain Lake PBS. Isn't that beautiful? Now, there are not many opportunities, and the Armenian communities worldwide say, oh, we want to see Armenian documentaries. Well, here is the place, here is the opportunity, here is the opportunity to give Mountain Lake PBS the donations they need to maintain this kind of programming. So in the end, what happens? They encourage me. Isn't this perfect? And then you're happy because you get Armenian films on television. Now, is this a perfect scenario or not? So why is it, what would stop any Armenian from calling Mountain Lake PBS right now and donating the necessary amounts? I don't understand.
They heard you.
This is the way it has to be, because if they donate money to Mountain Lake PBS, it's simple. They're able to license my films. I'm able to do more films. You get to see more Armenian films. Black and white. It's not complicated.
We'll look forward to seeing more of your films.
Absolutely.
Right now, we are going to finish up, though, with the conclusion of Uprooted here on Mountain Lake PBS.